yeah, we're talking really. I want this episode to be almost a companion piece with.
Yeah.
So the album's coming out on the 23rd of August.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing the thing at Dark Aeth where we're gonna play it. We're going to play it and listen to it, which is a wonderful thing to do. Listening to music with other people, and you'll get to see. I suppose that's the thing to get into here is you're going to see the reaction of people.
Yeah.
Right.
Good and bad.
so when the director goes to see a film and he's sitting in the back and it's a comedy or whatever it is, and he's waiting for those reactions, you're going to get to in real time.
Do you know what? Like, it's just occurred to me that will be the first time I've ever seen people reacting to my music in real time.
It's a tightrope because
it's a bit daunting, but it'll be a good experience, I think. Hopefully,
yeah, it's both good and bad because we're thinking of people are going to go, well, let's just shit and say that. No one's going to do that, But you'd also people go, this is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, hopefully
you'll be like, it's a vindication, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I've only played it for a very small handful of people. And, even that, like playing it to your family, your friends or whatever, even that's quite an awkward process because you're just sitting there like playing something to, maybe people who aren't into metal, in a regular life. But at least I know that everyone who's there at Dark Aeth on the 23rd is going to be people who are into this kind of music and will have a reference.
Well, they've got good taste is the truth, mate. And what's great is I am, ladies and gentlemen, one of the few people who have been able to hear this record. And off pod, I said to Al that I was worried, as I always am, even though I know it's good and I know it's going to be good, I'm always worried that if it's shit, I've got to recommend it a load of shit. Thankfully, ladies and gentlemen, I'm one of the rare people who's heard this, and it's fucking brilliant. It's really good, ladies and gentlemen, and it's what I hoped it would be, and a little bit more. We've talked previously kind of about how we got here, and it was only when I heard the record now I can hear the distinction between Nil and Castle. I can hear the distinction sonically now, because I didn't know what it was going to be. It's quite difficult to describe. I mean, Castle is more thematic. Is probably the only way I can go. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, to be quite basic about it, I mean, my stuff is a lot more riff based. It's a lot more like visceral in that respect. And Matty's is kind of, there's a lot more blast beats. There's there's atmospheric passages more so than there is in mine. There's a lot of synth and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's two different approaches. And but I think they match quite well.
The same side of the same coin, though, aren't they? You could almost, and this is the sign of a great split, you could almost see this being as the same person did this. It's different, but it has the same tissue connecting it. It's
and
two different.
I mean, we wanted to strike a balance between.
Balance.
I wanted it to be like a common thread through the album in terms of production and stuff, but at the same time, you want the two sides to be distinct from one another, and I think we managed to strike that balance. And I mean, we had the same drummer. We did it in the same studio. It's produced, engineered by the same guy, Chris Hendrick, who's an absolute wizard on the desk. And I mean, I'm happy with how it's turned out, definitely in that respect. Did either party have any, were they in the room at any point during the creation of those songs that are on there? What I mean is that, did you hear the Castle stuff before you showed or even wrote or even started the Nil stuff? Was there constant back and forth? I'd been working on Nil stuff. Well, I didn't know it as Nil then, but just black metal stuff for a couple of years. And Matty, who I've known for, over 20 years now, approached me and said, would you be up for producing these 2 tracks for us?
Yeah.
I said, I'll just pay you a flat fee. But I was like, well, instead of doing that, why don't we just do something together? And I'll sort of fund it and put it out. And luckily, the stuff I was writing and the stuff that he came to me with, I thought they'll probably actually go together quite well. Because I mean, Matty's stuff has been an influence to me. I mean, his album came out a few years ago. Until Saganti and Burns, and I was genuinely quite blown away by it. you know, and I think it did have a bit of an impact on me musically. So, yeah,
that's a wonderful thing to hear, that, you know, that it's just such, everybody wins in that situation. You know what I mean? It's like, look, let's work together. It's splits and EP splits and single splits. It's been something that's been in the music business for a long time. Punk loved it, you know. Underground industrial music absolutely fucking adored it. You know, some of the best experimental metal has been done with splits because it's two mutual parties coming together for the same goal to push a style of music maybe not as appreciated, isn't it?
That's it. And like you say, you can afford to be a bit bolder as well. You can afford to mix it up a bit because it's separate from your usual project. I mean, obviously, in my case, it's the first project I've done with Nell, but you know, I think splits are kind of an underrated thing, really, because there's a lot of room for maneuver, and there's a lot of it becomes its own thing, you know.
Yeah, was there any debate about who would go first? Because it's a listening club. It used to be that, ladies and gentlemen, when you had vinyl or a single split, the user would choose. But in the streaming days, was there any thought to who goes first?
I wouldn't say there was debate, but it was kind of, there was no kind of ego involved in that decision. It was a case of like, which of these tracks do we think would make the best opener for the album? And we kind of both fell on Crucified Tyrant being the opener, because it really sort of like bolts out the gate, you know. So he said, no, I don't mind going second whatsoever. So
ideally, what I'll be doing is I'll be intersplicing sort of some parts of the songs on the show, so people can get a bit of a taste of it. And let's start with Crucified, you know, Tyrant Soul. I don't know where to start with it other than to say I agree. It's the perfect opener out of all the songs. Is there enough to get hold of it to take you to where you need to get to? You know what I mean? There's a lot sort of the things that are almost the staples of black metal are there, but I think it's probably the most accessible track, and not in a bad way, in a good way, the most accessible track on the album.
I would agree with you there, yeah. You know, I think you would kind of have to have some, you know, you would have to be a little bit versed in black metal to not go, whoa, do you know what I mean? It's because it starts so aggressively.
It's not easy listening, let's be honest. It is the easy air of it.
Easy air listening, yeah. No, it's
assuming that it's not great. It is great. I just think that it's the one that's thematically is very quick to get where it's going to in a very, very quick way. It's like there's very little mess around. There's not much gristle on it. It is all muscle there. There's two or three key riffs going on in there, which are just fabulous.
Well, thank you. But I mean, that was actually also the first track that I wrote for this project. So like it kind of just happened that way. But like you say, I wanted something that just kind of, you know, musically and lyrically just sort of says, right, this is the record, this is where we are, you know. if you like it, keep listening, kind of thing.
You'd almost, as well as you're almost playing for yourself and Castles as well. You'd almost, because if it's rubbish, no one's going to get maybe to their stuff. It's a bit of a weight to play, but it's like it's easily one of the one song I would have picked as well to open it. It's massively sounded as well, ladies and gentlemen. When you listen to this song, this is, what's the recording setup for this then? What's it wrote on? Where is it produced? Is it all in-house? Did you take it out-house anywhere?
So initially it started with, obviously me and Matty wrote the stuff, stuff separately. And then when he approached me, he came around to ours and we had a very basic Ableton set up, and I did all the demos on there, which took, you've got stuff on, haven't you, as an adult? So it took a few months to kind of get that done. And once we'd got all that done, we're like, okay, this is sound. Oh, actually, we need to record this now properly. Do you know what I mean? And funnily enough, it was directly after the first time I'd been on your show, and Chris Hendrick, who's the engineer on this, he got in touch with me and said, "Oh, I listened to the show. I really liked it." I said, "Well, it's funny you should say that because I hadn't spoken to him for a while."
It's funny you should say that. Do you want to do this next project for us? Because we need someone like you to take it from being, a bedroom project to a reality. Like, so once we got Chris on board, we set up in SAE in town.
Yeah.
And we got a drummer called Will from Southampton, came up for the sessions. And that was when it became like, a real project kind of thing. So it was all, everything that you hear was, apart from the synth, which is on home, everything you hear was recorded in SAE in town in about 4 sessions, something like that.
Yeah.
So that was the setup. And it was a strange one, really. I mean, it was a great environment to work in, but it's the first time I've been in the studio for like 15 years, So it was a big kind of not learning curve, because I've done it before, but it took some getting used to working like that, But it worked out really well. Everyone was so easy to work with, and we were really efficient with our time when we were there. So yeah, Chris was kind of the missing piece of the puzzle, really, in getting it out of the demo stage to the final thing that you're hearing now. So,
ladies and gentlemen, as you've heard, I'll be taking full production credits for this album.
Absolutely.
That's just fucking nice to hear. It's just nice to hear that that you got it moving. Because I know it was in your head for a while, and it takes a while for these things to get into your head. But we met at the Metal on Merseyside launch exhibition at Dark Aeth, which is fabulous, and I would strongly advise everybody go. So we met at that, and I talked to Al, ladies and gentlemen, about the importance of creation and not being worried if some stuff was done at home and then having to bust people in and get sessions in and get this. You are an example, sir. I've said this before, of just fucking getting it done. Okay, what do I need? I need a drummer. Okay, well, I'll go and get a drummer to do this project and kind of make that happen. And this whole project for me represents that, of two people going, okay, we want this to get out there. We want this to be heard, so we're going to do whatever the fuck is necessary to get this heard. That's powerful.
It was, I mean, it's, I'd forgotten about, well, not forgotten about, but it was the first time in a while I experienced the power of collaboration with other artists, because everything I've done in recent years has just been in isolation, just writing stuff.
Yeah.
And when you actually get out there in the studio and you've got, where Chris and Matty and there was a few other people involved as well, it's like, it becomes kind of greater than the sum of its parts, and it becomes its own thing. And the dynamics change. And
demonize collaboration as in some way, if you collaborate with someone, you are reducing your vision or you're compromising in some way. And we know that that's just bullshit. It's not. If you work with good people, they inspire you to do better things. I bet when you went to the studio and you were recording, there'll be a couple of moments where Chris would have been, that's not good enough. It needs to be this. It needs to be that. Yeah. It doesn't mean it in a bad way. It just means, listen, you could be better here, and you step your game up and you get better and produce the best thing you can. That's surely the absolute zenith of fucking collaboration, right?
Absolutely. And, there is a bit of compromise in it, but a bit of compromise is good. Do you know what I mean? Because
it stops overindulgence, doesn't it?
No, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And with the thing in terms of like, oh, could you redo it and this, that, and the other? Matty he's a sweetheart, but at times he can be incredibly blunt. And in the studio, that's honestly a really good thing.
It's a time saver. Yeah,
it is. And when you're paying for the studio time, that's a big deal.
It's entirely connected to how much money you're spending. I'd rather have someone go, that was shit, do it again, than not say that and waste another 2 hours.
Exactly.
It's like we get to where we go. So we go from Crucified. We have the little interlude of Stillness, which I won't put on this podcast because it's an interlude. It's meant to be a palate cleanser before you get to
absolutely
my favorite track on the EP, the Stonebreaker, because that's easily the best of the two Nil songs. There's not much in it, but it's easily the best one of that. But I think that one is the closest to the Castle stuff as well. I think that's where, I don't know, I mean, what's your thoughts on that song? Where does it come from? What are the influences? Where does that come from? It's easily my favourite song on the album, EP, a full stop.
Well, that's nice to hear. But I mean, that song came from honestly came from the opening riff. You know, it's kind of a jig type riff, which I think I wrote on a 12-string acoustic initially, and then I thought, no, do you know what? That actually sound good with a bit of beef behind it. Like, so I kind of, it started from that, and I had made a point of wanting to write a song that didn't revolve around, I mean, I'm going to lose the non-guitarist here now, but didn't revolve around the E chord, you know what I mean? It wasn't all on the bottom string. I wanted to play something on the A chord, which in this case is a G, because I'm in D standard tuning. But yeah, I set out with making a point of being in that key, being in the key of G minor, and seeing where that took me in terms of the riffs and stuff. And it caused me to kind of, so obviously my stuff's very guitar heavy. It caused me to pick certain shapes and stuff that I wouldn't otherwise do. And that came out, you know, quite well, I think. And it kind of just started as a bunch of riffs that I kind of threaded into a song.
Well, you've got that wonderful, the reason you know it's a good melody, ladies and gentlemen, is because there's a little interlude in it where it lulls, so to speak, deliberately to come back in. And it's just, for me, it represents probably what Nil, if we get a full length one, could be. It opens a couple of doors and hasn't closed them yet, which is nice. That's nice to do that in an EP is nice as well, to establish yourself with one song, but also go, listen, there might be a lot more on the table here if we go more with. Was that the thought with that? Where it's like, look, I'm kind of going this way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, Nil is, as a project, there's only 2 songs in, do you know what I mean? I mean, I've got a lot of stuff that hasn't seen the light of day, but
yeah,
it's what that project will become kind of remains to be seen, do you know what I mean? But I'm just kind of keeping my options open. Like, I don't want to pigeon myself into just doing like really full-on thrashy stuff like Crucified Tyrant as much as I enjoy that. Yeah. You know, if I do an album, it's not all going to be like that. There will be some variation there. So
I think it's like most artists when they do the best stuff, it's when you kind of, like you say, you put yourself in that little challenging moment where you're like, okay, well, some of the shapes I would normally go for aren't available, and some of the easy way outs from a guitar point of view aren't there. I'm going to have to think a bit. That's when most artists do their best stuff, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, kind of necessity is the mother of invention and all that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's elements of that song that, like, you know, I'd written as like, and like I say, the opening riff was an acoustic riff, and there's other bits that started as acoustic bits as well. So I think the melody aspect shines through a lot more on that one, as compared to the first track.
So we go from that into for Villainy and Bloodshed, and now Castle stuff comes to life. Now, what do you think of that track? Because it's not yours. Yeah. You know, so what do you personally think about that track? I personally, there was a couple of turns in it that took me by surprise. There was some absolute, and I mean this in the most positive of ways, standard thematic black metal stuff in there that I was like, that ticks all my black metal boxes right there. Yeah. And then when it went a couple of different turns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is one of the things about, this was the first song that Matty presented me with. So this is the first song that we demoed for the project.
Yeah.
And I was kind of blown away by it. But I was also, like you, I was also thinking, like, why does that riff just stop on a dime there? And then it does something completely different. Like,
there was a couple of turns in there. Yeah.
He has an approach to songwriting that I love, but I don't understand whatsoever. Like, I don't know where it comes from. It makes no sense to me.
But I don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah, but it works so well. And I thought it was a great piece of music as it was, you know, at demo stage. But then when I heard it with the vocals and his kind of maximalist approach to vocals, like his lyrics are like 4 times as long as mine.
It's
that really sort of, when I heard it with vocals, it made a lot of sense. It just made perfect sense to me, and I was like, okay, I see what he's done now. But it's like, I guess like with the Crucified, it's kind of the opposite, really. A Crucified Tyrant, which is very sort of like A B C kind of thing, and then like a little end section. But his goes all over the place. But there is method in the madness, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of I really like that track. And when he first played it to me, I was really excited to be able to produce that as the first track.
It feels special. That feels like you say, it feels very big. It goes for a lot. It's massive. It's like 6 minutes 20 or something. It goes for a lot in that time as well. It's pretty. But even then, that said, it isn't my favourite song of the Castles one. That would be the Gallows Wail at the end, which is the end of the EP, and the second song by them. And what's your thoughts on that? Because that is as bleak as it gets.
Oh, gotcha.
And stark and so aesthetic and so acidic and so. His vocal line on that is just fucking. It's really, really, really aggressively and in your face, in all the best ways.
I mean, he doesn't really think of himself as a vocalist, but he's an incredible black metal vocalist, I think.
Yeah, he's one of the best. Devin Townsend probably doesn't see himself as a vocalist in that respect, that he does these crazy vocalizations. It's almost, I dare say, it's almost experimental. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, he's a huge influence on both of us. Actually, I don't know if any of that comes through, but he's a massive influence on both of us. Always has been. But yeah, I would say this is my favorite Castle of the Winds track as well. It might even be my favorite track on the EP. I just think everything sort of comes together like that. That opening riff it's a very traditional guitar riff, really. And you kind of think, where's this going? And then, like I said, it turns on a dime, and you get, this blast beat.
It just runs away straight away. It's like, it establishes itself really, really quickly, so you know where you're going with it, and then proceeds to just take you on a wild run there. And somehow he sticks to landing as well. It all comes back to itself, and I was like, fucking hell.
No, it's one of my favourite things on the album is the outro riff, the kind of Do Me outro riff. And as soon as I heard that in the it was good on the demo, but as soon as I heard it in the studio and he was doing the guitar line over it to go with the synth, I was like, fuck me, that's so good. That has to end the album. But I genuinely love Matty's stuff, the Castle of the Wind stuff, and I think thematically, with the lyrics and everything, which I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but it's based on this group of outlaws from mid Wales in the 16th century called the Red Bandits, who just used to go around terrorizing villages, basically, and we're all killed, and then there was bloody revenge. And I'll let him go into more detail about that at the launch, because I'm not as well versed in it as he is, but it's a fascinating concept, and I think he tells that story really well. Really well.
I'm looking forward to the to this launch, ladies and gentlemen. This is on the 23rd of August at Dark Aeth Records. We're going to have we're going to be listening to the album. We're going to be talking some shit. We're going to be talking about other stuff and the music that went into the creation of this EP. And you can actually, come down, ladies and gentlemen, ask the questions, talk about shit. If you've got a project yourself that you're trying to get off the ground, talk to Al and Matty about how they did that, and that it's not as hard as you think, that projects can be made to be realized and formed and can happen. That's what I'm if anybody gets anything from this episode, Al, I think we can both agree that these projects can be made to come to life. It's not hard. It can be done. You just got to put a little bit of work in, and it can get the amazing thing that you've got here now. You bear this wonderful child of this EP that you've got.
Absolutely. I mean, it's there has been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that's gone into this, really, because life has got in the way a lot of the time. Like we've had the challenging time, both of us, recently, but this has kind of been this, for me at least. This has been the kind of North Star that's been keeping me going through this year. Is like, we need to get this record out, and we need to be able to say, yes, we've got that out, we've got it done. Do you know what I mean? And it's been such a motivation for me, and to finally have it out, if just a handful of people enjoy it, I'm very happy with that. So it's just great to be at this stage.
I look for bits that I can cut from the show to put out there to inspire people, and you have just done it. That will be the lead quote that goes out for this show. Yeah, listen, I'll be at the show naturally. I'm looking forward to hearing what people think of this record. I think this is special. I think I'm really proud it's from our scene, really proud it's from our local scene. And it's nice to hear. And I think that ladies and gentlemen listening will be able to, if they go back and listen to the previous episode, one of the most listened to episodes I've ever done, of a man starting and being on the way of a journey. We get to see the end now, which is this, which is beautiful to me. I think that's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, the rather wonderful Al Holcomb. Thank you very much for coming on the show, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks so much for having me.
And I will see you at this show. Am I nice to say that?
Yeah. See you at the lunch.